just have to know how to persevere, right? And I'm persevering at the moment, because if you were just here a minute ago, you'll know that I was on live and then I got a phone call and it messed everything up and my phone stopped streaming. So it's real life, right? But we have to know how to persevere. We have to know how to get back up and carry on, and especially on a weight loss journey. Here's the thing, right? You and I, we've both failed on our weight loss journeys. Like, there's just, everybody who's ever been on a weight loss journey has made decisions that we go like, what was I thinking? Right? Because that's just how it is. It's not a journey of perfection. It's a journey of progress. So today I want to talk about some really practical things for you to do if you feel like all you do is keep failing over and over and over and over again on your diet, and you're just ready to throw it all out the window. You're ready to just quit and give up. I've got some really solid things for you to do and to work on today, to work through, because we've got to start being a detective. Like, that's what it's all about. We've got to start being a detective on our weight loss journey so that we can persevere, so that we can carry on. Because we know as women of faith that, like we say all the time, with God on our side, all things are possible. And then we don't believe it about our weight loss journey because we fall down a few times. But we know that there's that saying, like, if you can still look up, you can still get up. That's from Les Brown. Ruth loves that saying so much. And I love it too. So if you can still look up, you can still get up. And so just because you failed, just because you've fallen down, doesn't mean that it's over. It doesn't mean that we quit. That's the thing we've got to get through our heads, because when we start looking at our weight loss journey as a journey of treating our body like a temple, not a trash can, well, that's something we got to do for the rest of our life, whether it's about weight loss or not, right? It's not about just another crazy fad diet that we want to just get through so it's over. No. That's not what this is about. In fact, I read a quote the other day, and I don't recall who it was from, but it went like this: the habits you make to lose the weight are the habits you have to keep to maintain the weight. So you've got to think about the changes that you're making to your life. You've got to think about these new habits as lifetime habits, okay? And so the thing about making new habits and changes in our life, like, it's a bumpy road when we make changes, right? Especially at the beginning. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's 2 steps forwards, 2 steps back. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But that doesn't mean that we quit. That doesn't mean that we give up. And so it's about being a detective in your life to figure out, like, what's going on? Like, what is happening? And then how do we make adjustments and make changes and tweaks to what we're doing so that we can ultimately be successful? And being successful on a weight loss journey, I'm here to tell you, does not mean perfection. Okay. And Ruth and I have so many other videos on our channel about, like, you know, how we don't believe in fad diets, what we do believe in. So I'm not going to talk a ton about that today. Really, what I want to talk about is, like, think about every time that you fail or fall down on your weight loss journey. It's like, we've got to start looking at it like a mystery, right? Why is it happening? When's it happening? How is it happening? Like, we've got to start asking ourselves all those WH plus how questions, right? So we've got to be a detective. So because there's often patterns, right? We can find patterns, we can find things that are happening, and then we can learn how to make changes so that we don't fall into those same temptations every stinking time. Because it's like that, I don't know if you remember that old, like, analogy or little short story or whatever, that's like, you know, you walk down the street and there's a hole and you fall in. The next time you walk down the street, you walk around the hole, but you still fall in. The next time you walk down the street and there's this big hole in it and you try the other side in, but you still fall in. The next time you should probably just go down a different street, right? Because you know that that hole is there and that you haven't found a way to avoid it yet. So we have to, like, look at these times in our weight loss journey when we're falling down, when we're not making good choices, when we're failing, so to speak. We have to look at them from an angle of, like, it's information, right? It's not failure. Failure isn't final. Just because you fell down and made a bad decision on your weight loss journey doesn't mean you're a failure, which is a whole other thing, right? We got to address the stories that we're telling ourselves in our head. That doesn't mean you're a failure. But we've got to start looking for the things that are happening when we fail so that we can learn how to apply wisdom ahead of time. It's called wisdom over willpower, so that we can put roadblocks ahead of, like, in front of the temptation, so that we're not always standing there like face to face with the temptation, because that's when it's the hardest to run away from temptation, is when it's like staring us right smack dab in the face, right? If it's a long way out, then we have so much more opportunity to like escape the temptation, right? So we've got to learn to be a detective. So today, when you're here watching, I want you to go get a piece of paper. You can even hit pause. Go get a piece of paper, and I want you to write down, be a detective in my weight loss journey. And then I want you to write down when, what, where, who, how, and why. And we're going to talk through all of those things, because like I said, there's usually patterns that are going on. Like maybe every day around that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that afternoon lull is when you're reaching for the chips or the chocolate. And that's when you're derailing yourself. So we've got to look for the patterns. We've got to look for all of those times. So you've got to ask yourself, when are you falling off the wagon? Like if you look at a day or a week or a certain cycle, when is it that you're falling off the wagon? Is it every Friday night after you've gotten off work and you're like, whoo, it's the weekend, I can let loose and let my hair down? And then you go out for dinner and you have like all of the things. Is that when it's happening? Is it that daily afternoon lull? Is it in the evening, after, your kids are in bed, or when you're sitting there watching a show? When are you falling off the wagon? And I want you to write down when it is that it's happening for you. Like think about, because the times when it's happening, right? It might be multiple times throughout the day or the week or the cycle or whatever it is you're looking at. So you might need a couple different lists, but when are you falling off the wagon? I know for me, it's usually in the evenings. It's usually after dinner, after my kids are in bed, and I'm just like, I want to eat all the things, right? So I know for me that that's a hard time. And so, but when I know that, then I can do things to help myself. Okay. So what is happening? You got to ask yourself, what's going on in my world when I am failing or falling off the wagon? Okay. Are you like struggling through some emotions that you don't know how to process and eating your emotions? Like we like to say, you're feeding your feelings instead of feeling them. You're just like shoving food there instead. What's happening? Are you like mega stressed out to the max? Do you have no healthy food in your house? So all you have is the junk food to reach for? Is it that you're going grocery shopping, but you're starving? So then you buy all the bad things? Like what is happening when you find yourself derailed? Next question, where are you when it's happening? Are you at home and the junk food is in way too close proximity? Is it at meal times and you're just overeating? And then you're like, well, I already overate, might as well throw the rest of it away. Is it when you're out with friends? Is it when you're at work? When are you struggling? Or sorry, where? That was where, not when. Where are you when it's happening? And again, there might be multiple times, but there's usually patterns that we can find. And so we've got to be a detective. Next question, who are you with? Okay. Sometimes there's people in our lives, whether it's our spouse, whether it's a friend, whether it's a parent or a sibling, like that we just eat with. That's what we do with them. And we don't really know how to not do that because that's our routine with them, right? Maybe you have a friend that you go for coffee with once a week and you always end up sharing dessert. And then that just derails you and you end up falling off the wagon. So who are you with? And that's not to say that you can't see that person, but maybe you need to say, hey, this week, let's go for a walk instead of go to the coffee shop, right? So there's things we can do to make changes. So who are you with? How is it happening? Are you like on the struggle bus going like, I'm not going to do it. 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 And then cave because the pressure's there in your face? Is it that you're actually looking for an excuse to make it happen because you actually like, you just really want that? Is it like, how is it happening? Is it that the food is in way too close of proximity and that's the problem? Is it that you like don't even know you've done it until after the fact because it's just your habit? How is it happening? Then you got to ask yourself, like, why is it that I'm failing? Is it because I'm eating my emotions? Is it the people that I'm with? Is it we just really want an excuse for it to be okay because we like miss our old ways and we don't really want to be doing what we're doing? Sometimes I think it's that we have that desire, that like deep-seated desire to sneak the food, right? That we're just craving. And it's that rush of like feeling okay. It's all of those it's all those chemicals, those what are they called? I can't even think of the word. Like the hormones and stuff, that neurochemicals, that's the word I'm trying to look for, that go surging through our body when we have it. It's that hit, right? And especially sometimes for those of us that like to eat in secret or hiding the food. And so it's like sometimes we're just looking for that hit because we just need it, right? So you've got to be a detective. So when are you falling off the wagon? What is happening in your world when it's happening? Where are you? Who are you with? How is it happening? And why are you continuing to fail? So we've got to look at the patterns. We've got to figure out the why, or the whole thing. We've got to look at the whole picture. And then we've got to A, apply some grace. And B, then we have to learn how to put wisdom in place over willpower, okay? We've got to learn ways to put safeguards in place ahead of time so that we are not face to face staring the temptation down all day, every day, because our willpower is not strong enough to withstand that. And that's why we love the concept of using wisdom over willpower, because we need to have self-control, but self-control and willpower are they're similar, but they're different, right? Like if you think about willpower, and if you just had enough willpower to hang on to the edge of a cliff, if you were hanging off there about ready to die, well, your willpower is never going to be strong enough to hold you there for 3 days. It could hold you there for 1 minute maybe, but your willpower is going to let you down, okay? So we cannot rely solely on willpower in order to be successful on a weight loss journey. That's why when we implement new habits, we have to look at our life. That's why we have to be a detective. We have to look at our life, and then we have to figure out what it looks like for us to put wisdom in place ahead of time. So for you, or for me, I'll use myself. For me, one of my very difficult times of the day is in the evenings. I like to eat everything at night. I like to eat chips. I like to eat chocolate. I like to eat cookies. I could eat it all, right? I don't. I mean, sometimes I do, but I don't make a habit out of doing that. But I know that that is a very difficult time of day for me. So what does it mean for me to use wisdom over willpower when I know that about myself? Okay, it means that I can't have the chips. Chips are my real weakness. It means that I cannot have the chips in my cupboard, because if they are in my cupboard, I will eat them, right? I might say no tonight, but if they're still there tomorrow, the chances of me saying no tomorrow and tonight are pretty slim, right? We have to look at how we can help ourselves, right? We don't buy the junk food for it to sit in our cupboard. We buy it to eat it. We buy it to be consumed. And whether we're trying to fool ourselves into thinking we're buying it for our kids or for our spouse, we know that if it's there, we know it's there. And so I think at some subconscious level, when we know it's there, we have it with the intent for us to have some of it too. And so for me, like I said, that means I can't have that in my cupboard if I'm trying not to eat it at nighttime. So that's what it means for me to use wisdom over willpower in that example. Maybe for you, it's that you go to work every day and there's donuts or cookies or some kind of snack in the break room every stinking day. Okay, and that's challenging. My goodness, that's challenging, especially if donuts are your thing. They're not really my thing, but if that's your thing, that is challenging. So what does it mean for you to use wisdom over willpower in that circumstance? You've got to figure it out. You've got to figure out something that's going to work for you. So that might mean that you're not going to go into the break room. That might mean that you're going to bring your lunch and you're going to bring an ice pack in it so that you don't have to go to the fridge in the break room. It might mean that you're going to bring yourself a healthy snack so that you can have that, like a tasty, healthy snack, so that you can kind of satisfy that craving with something else. Like we always talk about our energy balls, right? It's something sweet, but it's healthy, and it can kind of give you that satisfaction without going for the donut, right? And it's a way healthier option. Maybe if your example is that every once a week you go out with a friend, maybe instead of going out with a friend to the same place you always go to have the same dessert that you always have that always ends up derailing you, maybe this week you're going to say, hey, let's go for a walk today. Or maybe it's going to mean that you're going to say, hey, let's meet at the mall and go do some window shopping. Maybe it's going to mean that you invite her over to your house instead, where you don't have the things that are going to tempt you. So what does it mean for you to put wisdom over willpower like for you to use wisdom over willpower for the areas and the times in your life where you're struggling, where you end up failing. Because the verse that I have today, and you've probably heard us talk about this one lots before, is 1 Corinthians 9, verse 24. Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. Did you get that? Run to win. You also must run in such a way that you will win. There is no point in running for second or third place. So the thing about our weight loss journey is like, we're not running a weight loss journey in competition, right? We're running a weight loss journey for ourselves, for the sake of honoring the body that God gave us, for the sake of like, whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do, do it all to the honor and glory of God, right? That's why we're on a weight loss journey or a health journey. And so what does it mean to run the race? Well, it means that we have to carry on. We have to persevere. And if you think about an athlete, like a runner, they practice and practice. And every day, whether they're on the field or the track or not, their eye is on the prize. And that means that they fall down many times, but they still get up. They don't care if they look stupid when they fall down. They don't care if they make a mistake. They're learning, right? And so on our weight loss journey, we're learning. Every time that you fall down or feel like you failed, learn from it. Ask yourself those questions: who, what, when, where, why, how. I don't know if I missed one, but you get the point, right? Why is it happening? You've got to do the deep work to figure out, like, be a detective and figure out what is happening so that you can carry forward, so that you can get back up, because we know that with God on our side, it is possible. And another big thing about wisdom over willpower is that we have to pre-decide what we will and won't do. Now, sometimes there's scenarios that come up that we aren't prepared for because they kind of come as a surprise. Like, we don't necessarily know that we're going to this place and there's going to be this food, right? We don't always know. But a lot of times we do know what's going to be presented in front of us, or what decisions that we're going to have to make, but we don't pre-decide. We don't say, oh, I'm going to, this party tonight. Here's what I'm going to do. We just go with no plan. And then when we don't plan, we fail, right? And so we have to pre-decide what we will and won't do. So like if you're going to a party and you know that there's going to be cake and goodies and chips and drinks and pop and all the things, pre-decide before you go what you will and won't do. Make a plan, because you're going to do so much better if you pre-decide, and especially in areas that you know that you're weak. Now, that's not to say that you can never decide to have a piece of the cake. But if you do decide, pre-decide that you're going to have a small piece, enjoy it, and then let it go and leave it at that, and enjoy the rest of the party without obsessing about the food. The other part of this whole thing about persevering when we continue failing on a weight loss journey that I really felt was important to talk about today is this whole idea of, like, we have these two voices in our heads, right? We have the kind voice and the mean voice. And when we continue feeling like we're failing on our weight loss journey, what ends up happening is that we are listening to the mean voice. It is like a loudspeaker in our heads, and we lose all sight, we can't hear the kind voice at all anymore. And one of the big things that we have to do on a weight loss journey is, like, we have to have a belief that it is possible. Because if you don't believe it, then you will sabotage yourself that fast. And building belief in yourself on a weight loss journey is something that takes time, but it is possible. A big part of it is applying grace to yourself, right? When you do fall down, it is so easy to go, oh, I'm such a failure. I'm never going to do this. I'm always going to be fat. I'm never going to lose the weight. Who could ever love me? Like, we go on and on and on. And the things that we say to ourselves, like, oh my goodness, right? Like, think about the things that you have said to yourself when you fail on a weight loss journey. They're brutal. You would never say it to somebody else, right? But we have no problem saying it to ourselves on repeat. And I really believe that that's the enemy getting in there and keeping us stuck and keeping us down. This is a spiritual battle, my friends, just as much, maybe if not more, than it is a physical battle. There's physical elements to it, but oh my goodness, there are spiritual elements to a weight loss journey. And so, like, what we speak to ourselves matters so much more than you think it does. And so every time that you tell yourself, I'm such a failure, I'll never be able to do this, I'm fat, I'm ugly, all of those horrible things, We have to start replacing those lies, because that's what they are, with truth from God's word. So, I'm such a failure. No, you're not a failure. And in fact, with God on my side, all things are possible. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It means it's possible. Okay? I'm so fat, I'm so ugly, all those things. Absolutely not. Those are lies from the pit. And the truth is that you are a beautiful creation made in the image of God. You are a daughter of the King. So you've got to start, like, that's another thing. If you have your piece of paper, I want you to write down like some of those truths from the Bible that speak the truth over the lies that are in your head. Because then when you start saying those things to yourself, you have to be able to look at it. And even if you don't believe it right now, you believe that the words in the Bible are true. So if the truth that you write down comes out of this book, then logically, this is truth about you, okay? If that is where we are taking our worth and our value from, if this book is where we are getting our worth and our value from, then we know and believe that this is truth. So whether it feels like truth or not when you say it to yourself, it is truth, okay? It might not feel like it, but we cannot rely on our feelings, because our feelings will lead us down every bad path imaginable. We have to rely on the word of God, because it is unchanging. It is sharper than a double-edged sword. And so if you continue feeling like you're failing on your weight loss journey, like, we have to learn how to be a detective of our life, figure out what is going on. And then we have to look at ways that we can apply wisdom over willpower. And then we have to work on this voice inside of our heads. And we have to, like, okay, sometimes we don't know how to speak the truth over ourselves, how to claim the promises, how to listen to the kind voice. And that's why sometimes I think it's so important to have, and I know that it's so important to have inspiration and encouragement from somebody else who does believe in you. Because like Ruth and I believe in every single one of you who are here watching, even if you failed 100,000 times before. Because guess what? I have failed 100,000 times before. I still fail. Ruth still fails. But the thing is, failure is not final. If we get back up and carry on, it's actually not failure at all. It's learning. It's only failure if we let it keep us down and if we let it keep us discouraged and we stop acting. So the whole reason for this video today is because we had a comment from one of you saying, and I'm not going to say who you are, you'll know, just saying that you feel like you're just failing and over and over and over again, and you're failing and you just don't know how to carry forward and you don't know how to keep getting back up, because it is discouraging when we continue failing. I know that. And I'm not saying that any of this stuff takes away the discouragement, but here's the thing. The answer to discouragement is intelligent action. Okay, and that's what I want to give you here with this process, right? Intelligent action. If you don't know how to stop failing, you have to do this. You have to look at your life, look at where you're struggling, and then figure out how to make changes to what you're doing. That's how to make the changes. And you have to understand that the changes and the new habits that you're implementing, they're going to take time to like feel like part of your life. It's a bumpy road when we first start, and that's okay. You have to remember that the habits that you make to lose weight are the habits that you have to keep to maintain the weight, right? We're not making habits just for this long to lose the weight and then going back to our old ways. We are making habits that we are going to maintain for life to maintain the weight loss. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat now. If you have any comments or thoughts about this too, I would love to hear them. I've also linked our 10-day WeighDown plan in the description below if you want to go ahead and check that out. It's the plan that I used to lose 150 pounds between 2 pregnancies. Ruth used it to lose 20 pounds. Thousands of other women have used it to lose varying amounts of weight, all the way from like 5 pounds to 85 pounds. And so we know that it works. But the thing is, no matter what plan you're doing, you're going to fail, right? Plan to fail, because it's bound to happen. But it's only failure if you let it keep you down and keep you stuck. So remember, if you can look up, you can still get up. And like, here's a thing that you can say to yourself if you need this like word of truth to speak over yourself. And this is what Ruth and I always love to say. You are a beautiful woman chosen for greatness. You were chosen by him to do great things. And so honor him by taking good care of the body, mind, and soul that he's given you. And I think I'm going to leave it there today because I feel like I'm just getting on this ramble train. But I hope that this video will be useful for each one of you, because I know how it feels to feel like you just don't know how to keep pushing forward, but you can persevere. And we know that it's possible. We know that with God on our side, all things are possible. So run the race, run it well. And remember that you are a beautiful woman chosen for greatness. And Ruth and I, who will be back next week, I promise. You are a beautiful woman chosen for greatness, and Ruth and I absolutely 100% believe in you. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.